What's up, guys? Hayden Schaap here. I am back from Mexico, actually. We went on a trip this last week with all of our leaders, our directors of sales, and had the chance to give a training and listen to a marriage and family therapist and get some coaching on like how to go dominate in our sales roles and sales leadership roles and do it together with our spouses. It was like honestly just an awesome experience in Cancun. Did tons of training, had a lot of fun. I am exhausted yet freaking pumped for this week. I've got a lot going on, and I'm excited to keep learning and doing this podcast, and it's been one of the most meaningful things for me. So if you like what I'm talking about, I am obsessed with this idea of how to persuade and influence people to do good in their lives and how to get to do that at a very high level. I do that through sales and sales coaching. And I'm also obsessed with personal and character development and how to become the best version of yourself in a principle and truth-centered way. And I'm also obsessed with principle-based or truth-based leadership development, how to get other people to achieve that level of character development where they can do good things in their life and be happy and proud about the people that they become. It's really meaningful and joyful. I'm also I'm pumped about everything that revolves around that, from personal finances to personal like life hacking. I just have ordered I've spent so much money on like weird gadgets this last month to like make myself test to see if I would make myself better. Like last night, it was like I felt like it was Christmas Day, dude. We got this mattress, 8 Sleep mattress, that is like a smart mattress and I'm convinced it's gonna help me be able to hack my sleep in a way that I can start actually truly resting and recovering in a way and spend less willpower in the day doing the things that matter most and spend more of that energy exerted towards creativity, towards making good decisions, and towards influencing people. Okay, we're going to get into the 7 habits today because that is the crux upon which all good ideas, I think, in personal development and business rest. Let's get into that right now, actually, and see if we can't learn something awesome. So we've been talking about habit 1, which is be proactive. It's the idea that you're already the creator of your life. It's just about becoming conscious of what you're creating and owning the past so that you can own the future, and taking full responsibility for what is the second creation of your life. Taking full responsibility for the process of creation in general. And that goes into habit 2, which is begin with the end in mind. And habit 2, begin with the end in mind, is based on this principle that because you are the creator of your life, with that power comes the ability and the responsibility that you should be taking for the first and the second creation. Everything is created twice, always. It's a rule that is unbreakable. That happens whether by conscious design or by unconscious design. And so now we're really deep into the thick of habit 2. And Covey's talking about how we can exert our energy to use our basic and innate human endowments to go create the life that is optimal from an effectiveness standpoint, that deals with meaning, contribution to others, and ultra high achievement. So let's get into the book here. We're going to talk about, Covey calls this the right brain approach. So being able to tap into that creative power to go create the life that we want. Now, this is assuming we've already decided we're the creator, right? So expand perspective. Sometimes we are knocked out of our left brain environment through thought patterns and into the right brain by unplanned experience. The death of a loved one, a severe illness, a financial setback, or extreme adversity can cause us to stand back, look at our lives, and ask ourselves some hard questions. What is really important? Why am I doing what I'm doing? This is something I've been dealing with lately for myself, as I've really been trying to evaluate my motives behind all of the audacious goals that I have and making sure that they're filtered through this lens of meaning. But if you're proactive, you don't have to wait for circumstances or people to create perspective expanding experiences. You can consciously create them on your own. That's a really profound principle, because when you realize that you're the creator, you are the creator of your life, and you're creating it either by default or by conscious design. Usually it's a mix of both. And for most people, you're creating it mostly by default. by your circumstances, conditions, or conditioning, is what Covey says. So once you realize that, then you can say, hey, I don't have to wait for these gut-wrenching experiences to cause me to step back and say, like, crap, what am I doing? I can go create the life that I want, right? And as a proactive human, I can go have these perspective expanding experiences that orient me in the right way toward the massive, audacious, meaningful things that I really truly desire. There are a number of ways to do this, Covey says. Through the power of your imagination, you can visualize your own funeral, as we did at the beginning of the chapter. You can also visualize, he lists a bunch of different activities here, which I've had the chance to do these in person, alone, and with groups that has been really powerful. You can visualize your 25th and your 50th wedding anniversary. You can visualize your retirement from your present occupation. What contributions, what achievements will you want to have made in that field? What plans do you have for your retirement? Will you enter a second career? Expand your mind, visualize in rich detail, involve as many emotions and feelings as possible, involve as many senses as you can. I've done some similar visualization exercises with one of my university classes, and he basically goes on to say, like, assume you only have this semester to live. How would you handle that semester? That's like a really profound, I think, thought experiment. And this is one of the things that I do with all the salespeople that I work with, that I'm starting to do more and more, is just say, like, hey, before we really get into the thick of your summer goals, what we need to do is we need to take a step back and say, like, let's just imagine that you died right now. What would all the people in your life say about you if they had to take a truth serum? This is the summary of it. When you take people through the thought experiment, it can be much more profound. And then after that, you say, okay, now assume you only have 3 years to live, but you can't change anything about where you're going, what you're doing. You can only change how you behave in those things. What would you want the people in all of the roles in your life to say about you by the end? That includes work, that includes school, that includes your family, that includes everyone. What would you want people to say about you? How would you live those 3 years out if you only had 3 years to live? It's kind of a profound thought experiment, right? Really emotion evoking, because it starts to connect you with the things that matter most, that you actually care about. I love doing this, and every time I take other people through it, I take myself through a version of that. It's like I imagine as I'm coaching, this is maybe a tip for you leaders that are listening to this. Like, as I'm coaching salespeople, one of the things that I've found really effective is to imagine I'm coaching my younger self. How would I give them advice? What advice did I wish I had when I was in their position? Because I see myself in everyone that I coach that's along the journey with me. I think they're doing it in part because they have been where I've been, and that's resonated with them at some point. So that's a really profound way to, like, draw out those emotions, those experiences, right? And there's a number. Covey says the dominant central theme of their activities, their underlying principle, is love. So when you really dive into these thought-provoking, emotional, right-brained type, perspective-expanding experiences, and as a proactive person, you start to imagine them up for yourself. You don't have to be in the Nazi death camps with Viktor Frankl in order to have a similar experience where you can say to yourself, like, what things do I actually care about most? And if I only had a year to live, how would I go about living that year, assuming that I can't change anything? Meaning, like, the things that I'm actually doing, right? The template is let's say the template's the same. How would I go about all the roles? These results, as he does this experience, he says these results are revealing. They start writing to parents and telling them how much they love and appreciate them. They reconcile with a brother or sister or friend, whether their relationship is deteriorated. The dominant central theme of their activities, their underlying principle, is love. The futility of bad-mouthing, bad thinking, put-downs, accusations become very evident when they think in terms of having only a short time to live. Principles and values become more evident to everyone. There are a number of techniques using your imagination that can put you in touch with your values, but the net effect of every one I have ever used is the same. When people seriously undertake to identify what really matters most to them in their lives, what they really want to be and to do, they become reverent. They start to think in larger terms than today and tomorrow. And that's kind of why I haven't really connected this until now, but, like, one of the things that I've been talking to some of my close friends that I work with about, that are on this crazy sales journey with me and that work for and with me is like, a goal is really good when you start to have reverence for that goal. Like, you don't talk about it right away because it scares you a little bit. You're afraid of it. You don't want everyone to know because you're not quite sure yourself you can achieve it. You take it so seriously. You start to like become in awe of the person you could be if you achieved that goal. That's, I think, the beginnings of if you're really onto something when you're beginning stages of setting and achieving goals. Now he's going to get into this idea of visualization and affirmation. So we've kind of gone from like these broad spectrum macro principles down to the micro. How do we go about actually achieving this perspective expanding, connecting to the things that we value most so that you can actually go and, again, like outachieve your other self had you chosen to do anything else, and everyone else around you, frankly. Personal leadership is not a singular experience. It doesn't begin and end with the writing of a personal mission statement. That's really interesting. I love that. It is rather an ongoing process of keeping your vision and values before you and aligning your life to be congruent with those most important things. And it is the effort, and in that effort, your powerful right brain capacity can be a great help to you on a daily basis as you work to integrate your personal mission statement into your life. It's another application of begin with the end in mind. Let's go back to the example we mentioned before. Suppose I'm a parent who deeply loves my children, and he goes on to this example of like, but I don't always treat them the way that I say I love them. How would I go about visualizing being different? Well, if I value being different, and if I've done this technique that allows me to connect to the things that I morally value most, then I can go and say, okay, I can visualize it. I can spend a few minutes each day, totally relax my mind and body. I can think about situations in which my children might be misbehaving, and I can visualize them in rich detail. I can feel the texture of the chair I might be sitting on, the floor under my feet, the sweater I'm wearing. I can see the dress of my daughter has on and the expression on her face, and more clearly and vividly I can imagine in detail. More deeply I will experience it, the less I will see it as a spectator, and I can see her do something very specific which normally makes my heart pound and my temper start to flare. But instead of seeing my normal response, I can myself handle that situation with love, with power, with self-control. And then you can go on and actually change how you act in the experience. There's some interesting neuroscience behind this technique of visualization. So your mind, Andrew Huberman talks about how to set and achieve goals. One of the things that he says is you should visualize them before you actually do them. One of the things that I find really fascinating about that Andrew Huberman talks about that has some really powerful neuroscience backing it is that your mind, when you're visualizing like the nitty gritty of your behavior, your mind is not stupid. It knows the difference between reality and falsehood or something that you're conjuring up. But what it is doing is it's rehearsing. And the more vivid you make it, it's rehearsing how it will actually respond when the time comes. And this, Andrew Huberman says, this actually causes less neural friction when you go to actually act within your value set. If you visualized it one time, even just one time is what the science says. And you can listen to this on his podcast. It was like 3 or 4 episodes previous to the one he just released. But even when you've only visualized it one time in detail, the fact that your mind has already rehearsed how you want to behave makes it actually much, much easier to behave that way when you get into the actual situation itself. That's why it's so important to not only visualize the end outcome, but also to visualize and see the steps along the way and how you are behaving within that system that you've built for yourself, or that you've decided like, no, you put your stake in the ground. You're like, no, I will be this person. And so therefore, in order to achieve the end outcomes that I want, I'm going to behave this way on a daily basis, and visualize all of the experiences in which normally you don't. And you're imagining like killing off that former version of you that would behave against your value set, your code of ethics, and then go behave in a way that would actually get you the outcomes that you seek. I think it's such a powerful concept. Okay. I really, really like that. I skipped this paragraph right here because I actually want to read something that's the steps or the aspects of a good affirmation. 5 basic ingredients. A good affirmation, a good visualization tool has 5 basic ingredients. It's personal, it's positive, it's present tense, it's visual, and it's emotional. So I might write something like this if it's the parent, right? It's deeply satisfying to me that I respond with wisdom, love, firmness, and self-control. That's positive when my children misbehave. Now, there's nothing about that where you're convincing yourself. You're just saying in the present tense right now, it is like where you're convincing yourself that visualization is actually real. But you can say like, no, it is satisfying to me based on who I want to be for my children, based on what I want them saying about me in my funeral. It is satisfying to me. It is deeply satisfying to me that I respond in a way of love, firmness, kindness, self-control when my children misbehave, when that happens, right? So that's kind of what I'm doing right now in all of my sales goals for the summer is I'm saying like, where are all, based on my goal, so I've determined that, like, let's say I want to service, let's say my sales goal is that I want to make $500,000 this summer. And like I know a dozen of or more of my sales leaders have that goal and will for sure do it. Then I can go and I'll build out my goals and this vision statement that I'm going to be repeating back to myself that follows this same process. It's a little more in depth, and I'll get into that in future episodes. The statement of definite purpose. If you guys have worked with me before, you know exactly the formula, and that's what we're training on a recurring basis, right? I'll go build that out, and then I'll imagine, okay, cool. So the guy that's making $500,000, what are all the things that I do right now that could be potential stumbling blocks that I need to write affirmations around in order to start running the program in my mind so that when I get to that moment, I behave like the guy that makes $500,000, not like the guy that made whatever I made this last year. Does that make sense? Because what you're doing is you're saying, okay, now based on who I want to be, because a goal is nothing more or less than a symbol for who I become to achieve the goal. It's not just about the achievement of it. It's about being the type of person that can achieve that on a regular basis. It doesn't just happen by happenstance, right? It's not just a one-time production. It's a production capability or capacity that we're developing. So then I'll say, okay, well, what does that guy look like? What am I doing? How do I behave? Awesome. Now, knowing that, what are all the things about my current character that go against what that guy that's making $500,000 does? Oh, well, maybe when customers get upset, I respond in an adverse way rather than being kind, because the kindness is what's actually going to get me the sales at the end of the day and help me feel good about myself so that I can really, truly be a good person according to my value set. I don't answer my phone between 4 and 9 p.m. every day because I need to focus and buckle down on leading from the front. All those things. Well, what if you have the temptation to always answer your phone? What if you're the guy right now? You've determined that 500K guy, the guy that's making $500,000, he doesn't answer his phone between X time and X and Y time because that's where he's busy getting those sales, and you determine that's important. Now you say, well, right now, do I have the habit of not answering my phone between 4 and 10 every day? Or do I have the habit of taking myself away from the goals that matter most to me and just going and putting out the crisis because that's easier to do than just to buckle down? If my habit is currently that I'm not good at those things that the 500K guy would be good at, then I need to say, okay, cool, that's where I build out this affirmation. I build out affirmations around who I want to become that is currently against who I am actually right now. And then you break those. You break that part of yourself. You start to re-script yourself from the first creation standpoint. That is what I love about this first creation idea, is that Napoleon Hill calls this voluntary rebirth. You start to experience this voluntary rebirth of becoming someone different. It is the process of not only creation, but is the process of leveling up as the creator of your life and leveling up as the creator of the massively audacious goals that you have compared to what you thought were possible. That's just a profound technique. Okay. So then he talks about how his son, Stephen Covey, was a football player and was a college quarterback. And one of the things that they would do is they would imagine, different adverse situations and how he would respond to them in a positive and calm way. And he would go do this relaxation technique, and then they would imagine, and then they would have this process of being able to reset after every play if something didn't go according to plan. At one point in the football career, he told me he was constantly getting uptight, which is what his son Sean says. As we talked, I realized that he was visualizing uptightness. So we worked on visualizing relaxation in the middle of the big pressure circumstance. This is right here. We discovered that in the middle of the big pressure, we discovered that in the nature of his visualization, that the nature of the visualization is very important. If you visualize the wrong thing, you'll produce the wrong thing. And then I really like how this guy, Dr. Charles Garfield, he's worked with NASA on their peak performance. After watching astronauts rehearse everything on Earth again and again in a simulated environment before they went to space, although he had a doctorate in mathematics, he decided to go back and get another PhD in the field of psychology and study characteristics of peak performers. One of the main things his research showed was that almost all the world-class athletes and other peak performers are visualizers. They see it, they feel it, they experience it before they actually do it. They begin with the end in mind. Man. That's why I've been obsessed with this idea of like training salesmen like they're professional athletes, and me myself trying to do that as well. I just hired a nutritionist to cook all of my meals for me this last week, 2 weeks ago, and to dial in on nutrition. It's like those. I was talking with another good friend, one of my best friends yesterday. It's like getting 1% better at all of the things that actually play into how you feel, how you act, how you behave on a daily basis, and that is the way to go. Just dominate. You can do it in every area of your life, before a performance, a sales presentation, a difficult confrontation, or the daily challenge of meeting a goal. See it clearly, vividly, relentlessly, over and over again. Create an internal comfort zone. Then, when you get into the situation, it isn't foreign. It doesn't scare you. Your creative visual right brain is one of your most important assets, both in creating your personal mission statement and in integrating it into your life. There's an entire body of literature and audio videotapes that deals with this process of visualization and affirmation. And I think really that's one of the things that's really important as we go into, we're almost ready to get into habit 3 right here. I think that this is going to be a profound shift as we go into habit 3. We're really, really close to habit 3. We're going to finish off with just one more portion of habit 2, begin with the end in mind, before we get into habit 3. And then habit 3 is all about the execution of it all, which I'm freaking pumped about, because that's where I'm in the thick of that part right now, of the planning and the execution. It's how do you take that blueprint and turn it into reality? How do you take an impulse of thought and make it a thing? That's what Napoleon Hill, is opening line in Think and Grow Rich, is thoughts are things, and powerful things at that. I submit that there's a secret there that is hidden in plain sight. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. Again, this is Hayden Schaap. If you liked what I'm doing, please comment, subscribe, leave me a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple. And definitely, if you're one of my sales reps listening to this, freaking leave me a 5-star review, guys. Come on, I'm working here so you guys can get some good stuff, and so you can be along the journey with me as I'm studying and giving insights from all of my experience. And I submit that I really do believe that the info that we're talking about here, that is not my own. Some of these are thoughts that have come into my head as I've been speaking and talking. Some of them are the things that I've learned along the way. But I submit that this information here and the principles, the truth discussed in this whole series and on my channel will yield you a greater ROI than almost anything else you could do, and following him especially. So I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks.